Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. It is custom tip-top pro level 1v1 day today here at Guilecast. Very exciting stuff, and the best part is I've got no news or information to bring you first. So, although it is UEF background day and it's supremely unlucky to jump straight to the action before the 3 Omnis are built, and even though I'll probably lose my keys down a drain later on this afternoon, I'm going to go straight to the action, which is going to take place on Tag Craftius Maximus. I'm ready, you guys are ready, and the players are sure as hell ready. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. So up here at the top left, first of all, in Regal Purple, we have none other than Blodir, who is going a very customary Cybran for a pro level 1v1. He is opening first land, and his opponent down here on the other side of the map in the bottom right corner, it's Taquito, and I'm thrilled. Let me say it again. I'm thrilled to see a custom 1v1 pro level match where it is not a Cybran mirror matchup, so I'm not going to have to injure myself later on through some sort of harsh cleaning method. We can enjoy the game without that prospect. Thank you very much. Taquito there in combat green, going UEF, opening first land. What a hero you are, sir. A little bit of a pause there on the construction. Don't know what that's about. And of course, we should go to split screen and check out the build orders, the openings for these two guys, because I know there's a lot of you out there that like to watch such things at the pro level. This is incidentally, while these guys are getting warmed up, from a series of 1v1s that the two players here were having last Wednesday. So if any other casters have picked this up, I'm sorry, but you know what it's like. It's a murder getting decent replays in the current climate of mass desyncs. It just makes it all the harder. The amount of games that come my way which are awesome, which I can't show you because they desync halfway through. It's dreadful. That is the nature of things and the replay business. Now these guys both going for Hydro before starting work on any of the T1 P-Gens. The Egg Roll was extolling the virtues of that in one of the very few games that I played recently. How times change. So yeah, guys, certainly newer players, if you have a Hydro in close proximity, it's definitely ever so slightly more efficient to grab that hydrocarbon before starting work on the P-Gens. Just go straight for the mexes, grab the Hydro, and that allows you to get a few extra units out just that little bit quicker. It is the nature of the beast. No naval factory queued up yet for Blodir. Taquito has started work on his and hasn't gone for an air factory yet, whereas Blodir is about to finish construction of his. So two very different tacks there for these two guys. Blodir moving south now with his ACU, heading down towards the bottom left-hand corner. Going to use the ACU to pick up the mexes down there, and maybe plonk a factory down there while he's at it. Taquito seems very much more stationary in his own HQ for the moment. Has started work on an air factory. Is he going to come across a bomber soon? No, well, he's working on interceptors, Blodir, for the moment. Spy plane, or scout plane I should say, not spy plane, going to fly over the base of Taquito, get that all-important intel in place early on, and we'll now be aware that a naval yard has been completed. No boats under construction as yet. Well, there it goes, straight for a Tiger Shark submarine under construction there. We do have a Mantis coming in with a mole. That will have been spotted by the scout plane from Taquito on the way in. Taquito leading out front with the ACU, going to head straight out over there and pick up the mass extractors. And of course, assuming those two units don't move out, they are likely to get blasted in the near future. Blodir is still on his way south, has picked up those two mexes at the midpoint. Taquito with a tiny mass advantage. You wouldn't expect a large one at 3.5 minutes. He's on 21, Blodir's on 19, and that is now just normalized. But Taquito with a 400 mass advantage on total mass accrued so far. So a very, very minor lead in mass totals there for Taquito. Taquito, of course, yielding quite a hefty sum in global ranking points, but global ranking points, let's face it, doesn't mean a great deal in this kind of format. Taquito may well play a lot more team games in different formats. You just can't rely on that as any great measure of skill or talent, but certainly he's up against one of the masters in the game. Blodir right at the top of the community in 1v1 play, and indeed very dangerous in a team game as well. Blodir now has a naval yard online, We have... I was going to say we have... Where on earth has it gone? Well, have we got a tiger shark in the water yet? It's got one just about to complete there. That rolls off. I can't see any others about, and there's already a sliver out up top for Blodir. So Blodir actually getting ahead slightly in the naval game. Out comes a courier there with some engineers. He's dropping them off on the islands at the bottom of the screen there, Taquito. And that's a slight lead he's got on Blodir, who hasn't as yet made a reach for those island mexes. Taquito now slipping behind though in total mass generated, 43 to 55. Fluctuating all the time. Blodir had taken a lead in total mass there, about 500 or so. You can hear those torpedoes coming away from the sliver up here, attacking one of the water-based T1 mexes there for Taquito. There it goes. And there's not a lot on this side of the map in the ocean there for Taquito to defend, so you expect that sliver to pick up a few more kills. However, Tiger Shark over here also likely to have some success. He's not going to push on, interestingly enough, to the western edge of the map and go after the mexes. He's trying to deny Blodir the scuttle that he's trying to build from the cliff edge there. And a couple of T1 units rolling in there, some Lobo shells raining down on top of Blodir's con there. And I just realized mini-map not enabled for that, so let's get that in place over the edge. Although Guile needs all the help he can get when it comes to recognizing the important plays. And the strikers down here cornered by superior numbers of Mantis, and importantly there for Blodir, all four... No, I spoke too soon. I was about to say all four of those T1 mexes survive, but Taquito does manage to snag one of them just before those units are destroyed. Taquito getting an upgrade there on his commander. Will the system be helpful and tell us what it is? Yes, it will. He's upgrading to Tech 2 there on the commander. So Taquito about to lose the last mechs over in the east in the water there, as there are now two slivers harassing his water-based mexes. And next we could see the naval yard taking punishment as well. Another Tiger Shark about to be completed. Also a second naval yard nearly completed there for Taquito. That should help rebalance things slightly in the naval game. 7 minutes gone in this one, and the match only really just beginning to heat up. It's quite a large map for the 1v1 format, so it does take a while for the players to fill the game zone with the right number of units to get a really solid fight started. Large band of T1 heading up the northeastern edge of the map there for Taquito, lobbing the occasional Lobo shell over the cliff edge onto the plateau there. Taquito with a formation down in the south, meanwhile. Not quite managing to hold the line. Looks like Blodir will make it through with a handful of units left. Taquito, though, on the move with his commander with the completed T2 engineering suite on board. One unit build capacity in the center, hurrying himself about reclaiming Blodir's position there. And interestingly enough, the autocannon that Blodir was planning to get down with the engineer there was blocked by the radar that was already in place. And so that engineer for Blodir just going to work on some wall sections which really serve any real purpose. Blodir breaking through on the top, although that progress might be stifled by reinforcements heading in from the east there from Taquito. Taquito's commander engaging almost single-handedly, well, completely single-handedly against Blodir's forces in the center, and with that engineering suite on board, it's proving quicker just to reclaim the incoming T1 units rather than waste time trying to kill them. naval side of things, we're still seeing good work being done by those slivers there from Blodir. Might be about to claim the naval yards, and I think we're going to see that go down. So Taquito loses one of his 2 naval factories, but ultimately will win the exchange now between the 2 submarines that are left. However, 2 more coming in there from the northeastern edge. In fact, we have another 2 naval yards way out of harm's way down at the bottom of the map there. 2 T1s working on submarines and frigates. Taquito now spamming up some point defense in the center as he encroaches towards Blodir's base, utilizing that UEF ACU for all its positive attributes. Has a triad online, a triad taking the occasional Medusa shell and being paralyzed by the EMP. Rhinos show up, so Blodir has transitioned to Tech 2, the HQ further back, and in fact not only 1 HQ but has 2 upgraded T2 factories there assisting production. So Taquito could be about to face quite a hefty wave of Tech 2 units coming his way. Engineer back here trying to work on a Cerberus turret, but Taquito advancing forward unhindered more or less. Will now be in range to start work on the point defense. Those engineers switch up to T1 PDs instead. Will Taquito kill off the build capacity before that point defense completes? Yes, he will. Very nice work indeed. And now Taquito in range almost of the main base with not just a dangerous looking ACU but an awful lot of T1 spam as well. And Blodir looking very poorly defended in the main base. He's all the way down here with his ACU, but is currently heading back now to base to try and defend, and this will put him in a very bad position going forward for the rest of the game. Taquito now spamming up Tech 1 PD right at the foot of the main base, and in comes a Janus as well. So there's a completed upgrade to T2 from the air factory there for Taquito, and that will add more issues for Blodir, as if it wasn't bad enough that he's now got 3 T1 PDs wailing away at his structures, assorted T1 roaming around in the base, and a T2 ACU that's pretty much almost at full health. Blodir not heading directly there, choosing instead to hold back and get another land factory online, probably afraid he's going to lose quite a few facilities in this exchange if he's going to be able to hold on to this base at all. Taquito gets a triad online. It's going to throw a second up as well. T1 PD's doing reasonably well at holding the forces at bay. Juices, of course, ultimately going to be causing trouble for the T1 PDs, but if Taquito can get enough point defense online, it really won't matter. However, the odd Mantis coming in from the right. There goes the second triad. Taquito having trouble really throwing these out though. He's maxed at production. One lone Medusa, meanwhile, taking out forward point defenses back at Taquito's base. If only Taquito had a stronger eco, this would have been game right here, but neither of these players doing brilliantly at this point. 37 to 35 in favor of Taquito, and now Blodir shows up on the scene with his commander. That is an unupgraded Cybran commander though, so he's giving up a lot in terms of hit points, and of course haven't got the added bonus of all of that extra build capacity on board. There goes another T1 PD under construction for Taquito. That's going to give him a little bit more breathing room, and another Taquito resurrecting formerly destroyed emplacements there, just about keeping up with the amount of units that are being kicked out of those land factories by Blodir. And of course, the longer this goes on, this is going to allow Taquito time to expand on this side of the map, and is starting to build up a hefty looking navy as well. Meanwhile, Blodir has his naval yard paused. Taquito didn't like the situation there, so he's brought in a Starlifter and has evac'd his commander. And where is he heading? Well, he's heading down here to assault the forward position that Blodir was working on before Blodir had to retreat to defend the main base. So it's going from bad to worse for Blodir, who's still under sustained Janus attack and is suffering badly on the power side of things. Taquito targeting the power structures nicely. Hydro's gone. Look at all of the wrecked T1 P-gens that have been taken out. Very solid work there, and yet still Blodir outproducing quite heftily Taquito on mass. So he had a sudden jump, a sudden spike in mass production there, and is still ahead despite being bottlenecked on power quite seriously. But if Blodir can get back on track in terms of power, he might not be in such a bad position. It just shows you that sometimes big, important plays can take up an awful lot of APM. It doesn't necessarily always get you as far ahead as you might like, but in comes a Starlifter with a whole load of strikers and a Stinger to boot, wailing away at the power structures overhead. Taquito determined to keep Blodir bottlenecked on power, and he's doing a pretty good job of it so far. Minus 106 net current expenditure, Blodir. Taquito down into the yellow, 12,200 hit points remaining. And would you look at the differential, though, between these two guys? 53k mass harvested there for Blodir compared to 38k on Taquito. I'm guessing a lot of it has been from the harvesting that's been going on in the base, probably why Blodir's mass production seemed so high. Rhinos rolling in to combat Taquito's commander. Of course, Taquito prepared to evac the comm at any time, although the Starlifter eats a Medusa shell and gets shot down. So Taquito's going to have to hoof it out on foot to the water if he decides he wants to evac now. Still, Janus is getting work done on random mass points around the map. Blodir, I think, still benefiting from the reclaim, but he's actually wasting mass if he is still reclaiming in any significant fashion. Mass at more or less full bar there. But importantly, this is allowing Blodir some time to get re-established up at the main base. He may be about to lose the position down here at the bottom left. One triad online. There goes another T1 PD and another one queued up as well. And those naval units we saw looking pretty passive a moment ago on the other side of the map have moved across over to Blodir's side of things. Blodir's naval yard still on pause, so he's had to completely give up on naval production for the time being altogether, and that will hand another advantage over to Taquito if he can recognize it. And we do have a T2 upgrade on the way for that naval yard, so it shouldn't be too long before we start seeing some governors on the scene, and that really could be all she wrote there for Blodir, who's in a sticky situation as those T1 naval units for Taquito roll up towards the main base. That naval yard under attack now from those frigates and the submarines, who are actually going to push on further to the east. As you notice, the scuttles under construction up at the top. The frigates handle the build capacity, and they only have that one torpedo launcher that was completed to worry about. In the meantime, back down here at the bottom, Taquito making good solid progress, erecting new facilities with that commander and pushing out with quite a large amount of strikers, with the odd Lobo mixed in there as well. Pretty solid formations building up at the top right. However, Blodir looking like he's going to make a push right down the center, queued up some defensive structures and a radar in the middle. Once that's been cleared out, Taquito hasn't got any defensive structures online down here. The two T1 PDs that were in place were taken out by that lone Medusa in the earlier exchange, just 18-19 minutes gone in this one so far, and certainly in the last 10 minutes an awful lot has happened. But now Taquito looking to push once again. Blodir going to lose a couple of the T2 mexes on the western coast. Should be able to repel this attack, although if Taquito can get in amongst the power structures here, he can cause a few problems. Blodir still right on the threshold of power expenditure, or power balance I should say. Blodir not liking the look of that, is going to withdraw to the midpoint where he's working on some T1 PDs. And all of these units that are heading now to the center were the formation that was sitting up here at the top. Map control now seems to be a good 70% now in favor of Taquito, who has also risen a lot in the mass production side of things, but he's bottlenecked himself on power. Going to need to get that sorted out ASAP. Still only just catching up now on Blodir. On the total mass approved, and of course down to the amount of structures that were destroyed and then reclaimed by Blodir. Pillars turn up on the scene. That'll be a welcome addition to the ground-based firepower there for Taquito. A couple of NGs being lifted around the top of the map there from Taquito, and there we have the T2 Naval HQ online and starting to work on, actually looks like a destroyer to begin with. Wants to get naval supremacy before he starts to work on the cruisers. T1 bombers out for Blodir, who, to his credit, is looking pretty dangerous on the ground. We've got a lot of T2 units here. We've got rhinos, we've got some bangers in there. Sign of a true master of work that he's able to stabilize himself after an attack as vicious as that ACU push we saw from Taquito earlier. Quite a lot of T2 factories online now though for Taquito, and they are sending out pillars to the front line. But a push from Blodir looks to try and secure the northeastern corner now. One engineer or two engineers trying to get some point defense online, but I think a Mantis is going to get there first. And so is a T1 bomber. That will prevent those defenses from being completed. Real skirmish going on in the center. These two groups of units continually being reinforced and jostling backwards and forwards for position. Taquito, for the moment, not seeming to have any ground-based anti-air to fend off these bombers with. He's relying on T1 interceptors to get that job done. Very reactive there. Quite a few units came to those early bombing runs. Two of those bombers switching up, going after the mexes on the plateau that Taquito managed to capture over the last 10 minutes or so. And engineers have made it to the bottom left-hand corner for Blodir. That's pretty impressive work. Have one T1 PD and a radar in place, as well as a tracer. Now going to try and grab those mexes. However, of course, any fringe mexes around the map are now fair game for Taquito's ships as they stroll around the coast looking for targets. That little push we saw a moment ago from Blodir on the north is turning into a dangerous potential run-by down the east coast now as two mexes are under pressure. Taquito not moving those pillars out immediately. He sends a couple of them that way. Should have sent all of them, really. There's a lot of T2 here for Blodir. It will at least stall the progress of Blodir on that east coast, but the progress through the middle is continuing. Taquito has managed to get a few pillars with some power shields up to the top of the map, but they look very isolated indeed, and Blodir really focusing on the air game. Now has 19 interceptors in play. Compare that to Taquito's 9. Blodir now at T2 air, has a few Cormorant torpedo bombers on the map as well, and now it's Taquito's base that's looking under pressure. Engineers get to work on the obligatory T1 point defenses. One online there, a second nearly about to be completed. All the key power structures further back, and T1 and T2 factories absorbing the damage on this initial push. There goes one of the T1 PDs, and the other one is now out of range down here, and this leaves a lot of factories vulnerable to this attack. More engineers trying to get more point defense online further back. The Rhinos can get around the side and slaughter the NGs. That will leave Blodir in a relatively good position. However, the factory's still spitting out pillars, making life continuously difficult. Taquito with that 3-star T2 comm out in the west, trying to hold the line against a push that's coming down that western edge now. Cormorant's going to work on the T1 Navy up here. We really do need to see some cruisers in play for Taquito. Another destroyer heading to the front line, and that's not a nice sight for Taquito at all. Rhinos and a Mantis up at the back. 2 pillars turn up to try and save the day. I think he might well lose that Hydro though before the Rhinos drop, and that's going to leave him very low on power indeed. Now Taquito finds himself cornered by some Rhinos, finds enough energy for an overcharge, takes out a couple of them, and a Renegade rolls in as well. Taquito deep into the red. This will be a horrible exit for our UEF player after such a valiant start. Fortunately, he's got the rail guns to retreat to, and thus the battle will continue, at least for the moment. Something always deflating when a exciting match ends, but Blodir has traversed the map with his ACU and now is giving Taquito a taste of his own medicine. Massive overcharge into the units piled up down there. Takes out about 5 or 6 units in one shot. And this is looking very bad for Taquito's main base now, which is under sustained attack. And importantly, I'm pretty sure the Tech 2 headquarters has been destroyed. Yes, it has. No more T2 ground units there being produced for Taquito, or indeed anywhere, until he resurrects the headquarters somewhere else. And now we're seeing a governor under construction, are we? I'll have to wait and see. My interpretation of the pictures, the icons, are not always particularly great. TAC missiles inbound there from Taquito, trying to pick off Blodir's comm. Only 2 kills to that TAC missile launcher so far, but Taquito, to all intents and purposes, has relocated to the bottom left-hand corner. I'm not even sure if he's going to manage to fend off Blodir down here. He has got decent amounts of T1 PD back here, and now we're starting to see some triads emerge as well, which will give them a considerable boost to that defensive line. And it was indeed a governor that was being produced, and that really will make a difference, will afford a large boost to the sea-based anti-air firepower, and indeed will allow Taquito to sting Blodir's base further inland from the coast. Haven't looked at the eco figures in a while, and Taquito, despite losing a great deal of map control, is probably operating at about, well, certainly 33% of the central landmass now only under his control. He has the seas pretty much all the way around, hasn't managed to capitalize on killing off the islands up at the top, but certainly on the ground on the main landmass he's been on the back foot for about 5 minutes or so, but is still doing pretty well on eco. 109 to 59, and has a total of 3k lead in total mass accrued on Blodir so far. A look at mass killed. Taquito with a significant lead there as well. 7k mass lead on units killed there to our UEF player. Buzzkills rapidly being constructed there to fend off the Viper fire that's coming in from the units over here. Blodir now going after the plateau up here. These plateaus, of course, can be vital strategic positions if you can wrestle control away from your opponent. Roll in here with some Vipers on a transport, or maybe even a trebuchet, and suddenly all of this becomes fair game. Blodir still hanging about over on the bottom right-hand side of things. Hasn't managed to oust Taquito completely, though. Taquito with his T2 Air HQ still operational, and 3 land factories as well. Quick pause there from Taquito mid-game. Probably had to unpick his underpants from his bottom after the last passage of play. I wouldn't blame him. It's been buttock clenching for me, and I'm just watching it. This is looking very ominous indeed, as Blodir sets up his units in formation. Rolls forwards with the Vipers at the wrong time, though, as they eat a whole volley of pillar fire. But now we're going to have the main exchange, both units rolling in towards each other. Hard to tell initially which way this is going to go. Taquito withdrawing towards the safety of the point defense that's further back, and the parashields that are lingering in the background there. And you can see on the minimap the governor in position as well, starting to launch at the center of Blodir's base. We can cut to that while Blodir withdraws from that latest push. What's he going after? Well, still working on the power grid there for Blodir. Blodir not with a lot of power to spare either, so this is good target prioritization from Taquito, but still the pressure building once again back in the bottom right-hand corner. Taquito doing what he can to hold off the forces. Does have some Sparkies though, and they've managed to get a couple of triads online. That will give him some breathing room in this kind of area here. In come Renegades though, and are bearing down on Taquito, whose armor is vanishing down into the yellow. 9,000 hit points and plummeting, with Corsairs in to back them up. It seems like a long old hoof towards the safety of the water there. We've got parashields coming in though for Taquito, which will absorb some of the fire for the time being. Almost no static anti-air in place down here. We did have some T1 anti-air early on. That's been destroyed. Taquito loses the cover of the parashields. Is now making a play for the water deep into the red. 4,000 hit points remaining. He does have a governor, though, back here. Those renegades being drawn into it. In comes a skyboxer as well. Blodir down to just a couple of renegades, and down they go just as Taquito withdraws beneath the waves with just 2,000 hit points on the commander there. That was incredibly close. Blodir looking like he wanted to get some of that action with his commander itself. Gets a quick rank in veterancy there on board the commander, brings him back up into the green, 10,000 hit points and climbing. Hugely close calls there for Taquito on a couple of occasions in this one. Blodir getting work done on the ground, has the personal stealth and the gun upgrade on board as well. Taquito comes back out of the water, is going to start work on a bank of triads. Needs to be very careful indeed. One wrong move here and that commander goes up. He's scouting regularly, which is important. Doesn't want to get surprised by a quick volley of Corsair fire. Attack missiles still heading north now from Taquito's launcher down here, which is up to 6 kills so far. One triad now online, a second one starting, and Blodir rolls forward. There's a lot of pillars there. He needs to be careful. Starts eating pillar fire, and another triad is going to complete, which is going to add to the amount of fire coming his way. Blodir withdrawing. There are parashields blocking the incoming Cybrin fire to begin with. He has got some forces to protect the commander. They are going to hold their ground and allow Blodir to withdraw, but still Taquito continuing to press. He senses he might be close to a comm kill, but alas, not quite enough room to maneuver there. Blodir backs out into the safety of some T2 point defense further back. Just 4,800 odd hit points left on the commander. Still that bottom right hand corner under sustained assault, but you get that feeling that Taquito starting to get a handle on this down here. Do have Vipers targeting the triads up front, but Blodir not making any significant gains down there. That governor we saw earlier has been relocated, as we saw 60 kills now on board that governor. That has more than paid for itself, and more importantly, of course, has forced Blodir into a program of tactical missile defense. We see zappers going up all over the place, not just because of the governor, of course, but the attack missile launcher down here as well. All of that utilizing more eco and APM from Blodir and allowing Taquito to stay on the offensive. Interestingly, we haven't seen the use of the submarines for a while from Taquito. You could send a few of them up around here to deny some of the mass points up the top, but you can't say he's been resting on his laurels. It has been non-stop action here. Taquito has been very busy indeed. Blodir on the move, picking up more reclaim. Personal stealth on board, of course, but that's not going to help him when there are lots of scout planes hovering overhead. Pillars on the ground, advancing over in the east. We finally see a counter push up the middle from Taquito. Point defense going up in the middle. Is it too little, too late? That remains to be seen. Blodir, though, once again finds himself in a tricky situation, and this isn't good at all. Taquito with an enormous array of tanks lined up in front of him, and he's not withdrawn early enough. Taquito BMs unnecessarily at the end. That was anything but easy in a 36 going on 37 minute thriller. But still, fantastic play from Taquito and indeed Blodir. Anybody else other than the top 10 players would have been done for after that early push right at the beginning there from Taquito, but Blodir took it right to the wire. And indeed, I've got to say, when he was heading into the main base down here at the bottom right, I actually thought the game was going to turn, and it may well have if all of this had been taken out. Taquito's eco would have been absolutely in tatters. Final mass totals there, 203 for Taquito, 178 there for Blodir. That's of course in K, in thousands. But very tense, very entertaining stuff indeed. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. There's always more to come from me in the future. Don't forget, if you feel so inclined, you can support me on Patreon. But until next time, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.